The project is called Women Work. It's been a journey around what it is that women consider work in terms of a value system. My name is Taranj Konsari. I am the lead practitioner on this interdisciplinary collaborative project between artist Mehrdad Saif, choreographer Pepper Ubera, and a whole host of women from Newham and Tower Hamlets who've been our co-producers of this project. It's also been a collaborative consortium of London Legacy Development Corporation, the V&A, Sadler's Wells and London College of Fashion.
This was an opportunity to tackle something which is obviously very, very important and contemporary as well. My name is Mehrdad Saif. I'm artistic director of 30 Bed, which is an interdisciplinary performance company. My involvement was going to some of the meetings with some of the women that Taranj had found locally, and hear their ideas, and then also to discuss the possibilities of the performative side, to sort of get material out of that and then to begin to help with the choreography of the parade.
My name is Pepa. I'm a choreographer. Dance artist. It's been a really interesting time. We had workshops where we were working with touch, with movement, with different body configurations. For me, it was particularly interesting to mix things up.
I've always been interested in DIY. I've always used power tools. Ever since a young age, I've worked with my dad at home doing the DIY tasks. And it strikes me as crazy that women are scared to do DIY tasks around the house themselves. I'm Jo Bahari and I run DIY workshops for women called Tools for the Terrified. I remember when I first moved into my flat on my own, I had to get other people to come in and do work for me, stuff that I could do myself, wallpapering, bathroom fitting. And I remember one particular experience where a guy came in and kept asking me questions about if I lived there by myself, and inappropriate questions, and I felt unsafe in my own home. And it got me thinking about how other women must feel, women that are vulnerable, women that have been victims of crime or domestic abuse. So I decided to set up a company to help other women get work done around their house.
My name's Babs. I'm a specialist makeup artist, so I help people who have scars or skin conditions such as vitiligo, anything really that affects the pigmentation of the skin. So I help people to use specialist products to be able to conceal those and feel more confident. I'm currently involved with another local charity called the Magpie Project, who are incredible. They provide support to the most vulnerable mums who have under fives in Newham, who often don't have recourse to any other support at all. I have a child of my own, so I can only imagine what these women are going through when they have all those other big difficulties in their life to deal with, as well as trying to raise their children as best they can.
It was good to come together and have a chat about the subject which we all have different view on. My name is Barbara. I've been living in Newham for over 10 years. I'm a mum and I'm a massage therapist as a profession. I got very inspired by creative work we did, and it reminded me about what I used to do during the university times, art and movement. That's something what really makes me alive. I felt I wanted to do something more. I also realized how many things are possible in the area.
I was thinking, I really want to be part of the community. I want to be part of this area and help other people to be involved with the poetry. My name is Sonia. I work and live in Stratford. I run different creative writing and poetry workshops, festivals for people to feel safe, feel confident, be creative. We have published 2 books with the group. It has been so amazing journey, actually.
For journalism, the idea of a process is very important, and that's what Women in Work has kind of taught us. Like, you need to go through a process to be able to write about it. My name's Aisha and I go to 621. I've also gone to school 21, so I've been here for a very long time.
My name is Ambia and I go to 621 as well. I'm currently doing some experience at News UK. I think what I've learned being a good journalist is getting people's stories out there.
I was really excited to be a part of the project, which involves just women. My name is Monica and I'm mother of 2 young girls and I'm a photographer. I love interesting things and being involved in a social projects.
So this cafe, which I think we'll be calling the Harvest Cafe, has also hosted one of the women called Daljit. So she's been running workshops here. She started to be much more interested in Abbey Gardens, which is a community food growing garden we're in, and started to run nutritional and well-being workshops for free for the local community. And she started to do meditations on Sunday mornings, and is also running the Women's Interfaith group in Newham. And so we've been talking about networking and relationships between different initiatives locally.
I think it was a really interesting conversation, not just with regards to women and work, but women and the position in the society, etc. My name is Dasha French. My daytime job is a finance manager, but I've been involved with Abbey Gardens ever since the project started more than 10 years ago. The interesting aspect of Abbey Gardens at the moment is that all of the trustees are women.
Given what's been happening recently with the Me Too movement and also the struggle for equality in pay, women and work sounded to me like a really great project to do.
Sometimes we are not aware about from where all the privileges that we have come from. People in the past worked really hard to make sure we now have all the rights that we have. In the past, we are talking about 1945, we didn't have the right to have even certificate about our studies, high education. So all these kind of things that now we think, oh, this is the normal thing we have. Rights, you know, we are still not there. We are nearly, but not yet.
For many of the women, I think work is very much aspirational. Once other obstacles have been removed, they would very much want to feel part of the workforce. But of course, it goes back to that question that we were discussing. What is work? Is it only paid work? Is it not? You know, they have huge amounts of work that they are doing and taking care of their children.
Being a woman who works really hard, being mother and struggling with getting work, paid work, that was really hard for me.
Some people quite happily assume that some work should not be paid for, or are prepared to sacrifice, if you like, their pay for that type of work. Perhaps we've been brainwashed, all of us, including myself, you know, about domestic work and how that should just something you do for yourself, your family and your children. Shifting from that position into looking at actually how can society financially award that kind of work.
The women who became co-producers and collaborators from Newham and Tower Hamlets, they come from very different walks of life. Most of them mothers, so most of them had to struggle and juggle in a way their childcare and their involvement in this project as well as doing their day jobs.
It's quite unusual that women meet without knowing each other, without being family, and have this intimate moment where they can discuss things together, dialogue. And especially now with everything that we are confronted with technology, things are becoming more individualistic. It's almost like a ritual where we are nurturing ourselves, we are nurturing others and supporting the community.
Being in the group with different kind of women from around the world, from different culture, inspire me a lot.
Everybody came to the table with different ideas and different opinions, and not necessarily the same as my opinions. So it was a really interesting discussion that sort of kick-started the project.
I was really kind of positively surprised by how much common ground there was between all these women who were sometimes of very different educational, socioeconomic, cultural backgrounds, and yet, you know, all of the difficult questions were difficult for everyone in very similar ways. You know, there were women there who had experiences from before I was alive even, you know, and their perspective on things was certainly enlightening. And what I found very positive about it as well was the fact that things do seem to have evolved in a positive way.
There was so much planning that was going into it, and so much organisation, and all these ideas that were contributed by all these like wonderful women.
Here we were taking some of the things that we had learned in like politics or in history, and we were turning it into something that we could actively be proud of.
It was very important for us as a group of artists to look at paid time and unpaid time. So we were very conscious that if these women were to be co-producers in this project, they had to get paid for their time. That also, I suppose, brought a very different set of people who would normally engage with art projects, which was very, very interesting.
Still in a world where, unfortunately, women get paid much less than men, we have been listening to different opinions about how do we value work, how do we value ourselves.
One of the questions I asked was, how do you put the price on touch? As a massage therapist, I give a lot to people. I try to help them improve their lives. So it really made me think about actually being appreciated in life and being appreciated by the society.
I certainly met people that I would not have come across necessarily in my day-to-day life, but of course they're close to me in the community and in the neighbourhood, so that was a really lovely experience.
I'd never been a part of something like that before, where we work with local people and you see that passion that a lot of local people have and like the opinions that were coming together.
It was amazing to have young women there as well, and the ideas they brought. Their point of view was very fresh and very inspiring, and also give us hope that the young generation is also seeing the things which are important and they're ready to take their steps.
Being involved in such a big project really like gives me a hope. So we were like supporting each other, you know, and being not just a friend, but doing a right thing for the other woman as well.
So each meeting, each connection we made, that's very precious. That's what we need.
There've been a really interesting series of discussions to talk about the idea of women and work in a contemporary context. Rather than have our discussions in one office-type meeting, we decided to combine them with visits to certain spaces like this one, which is the wash houses, used to be collective laundry spaces in East End of London, and then became the Women's Library. These spaces which were very important about solidarity of women, but are slightly forgotten, marginalised spaces.
It was wonderful to see how women will meet also in a physical level. In order to work with touch, you need to get to know each other, you need to feel comfortable, build trust. But again, it was very beautiful to see that, because as the weeks passed, then we could see how people were really up for more dancing as well.
It's really important to also mention the London College of Fashion students who were involved in making the costumes. They were absolutely brilliant, India and Sally, and I would work with them again. They also became quite integrated into the project.
Before the parade, walked through the locations of the parade a number of times to look at the colours that were there, the architecture, you know, the nature. The colour yellow stood out, a particular type of yellow, so everybody was asked to wear yellow.
The parade was not really about showing this mass solidarity really, but it was to have a project for us to all work with and work towards in order to motivate all of us towards something rather than becoming a talking shop.
The parade, it was really an interesting opportunity to look at the concept of performance in a new way. How can we actually bring everyday activity and events into this parade? So, for example, the whole parade started with a demonstration of how to use a drill.
And we had a couple of volunteers come up and give it a go. We even had a mum and her young son use a drill for the first time, which was fantastic to see.
It was a really lovely event. It was very colourful, it was very lively, you know, it was a big crowd of women. I think we attracted a lot of attention, which was great. And I think there was a lot of interest visually that attracted people. I got chatting to some people who'd seen us on social media and had joined from all the way across the other end of town and things like that. So it was fabulous, you know, to have this group of women unite around a common message.
I think one thing I loved about the parade was the spirit that was like going through all the streets we were walking through, and then all the chants and then people chanting back. I think that was the best part. That kind of community of people that we don't even know was really interesting.
It was a little bit nerve-wracking on the day to be sort of in public and presenting the ideas. Every woman, I think, had a different motivation to be there, so I think that was quite interesting.
The women that we work with, most of them didn't have dance experience. I feel like if you empower the body, you can empower the voice. All these things are interconnected. For example, when we did the parades, I did feel some people that were more shy in the movement classes. You know, they have a banner and they were shouting, you know, and that was very exciting to see.
Doing a parade is very much a kind of performative in itself anyway. People are walking and shouting slogans, holding placards and so on. What is the relationship of the parade itself to people who live in those areas, and how can they participate into it? Looking also at the history of those areas that we were going through to give it a different type of context. We stop at this mural and people have something to eat or to drink, because this is where they used to give food as well to a lot of women.
I have been living here for a while and I didn't discover that one until the parade. I just discovered how many places in Newham are holding histories and holding narratives.
It was for me like adventure, and as a photographer I see those two perspectives from the inside as well as outside, trying to capture everything, the emotions, you know, the people, the music, all the movement we were creating. It was just amazing for me.
One of the things I think we brought to the table was the whole social media aspect. On the day of the march, the first thing in the morning was we all got excited at 10 a.m. because that's when the filter started. People that were coming, they didn't really know how to use Snapchat as much, but you could see them downloading Snapchat, using the filter, getting really excited, posting on the stories, and that's kind of what we wanted, right? Yeah. For everyone to be enthusiastic and that we knew that we brought something to the table.
I think bringing in social media was just amplified our ideas and like our plans, and it's a good way of bringing other people into the picture.
I was there with my little daughter who was about 18 months at the time, and that was very important to me as well, to have, you know, important messages instilled in her and feel like I have a little activist with me, and she really enjoyed it as well.
Just to know the area and to know each other and to know what people from the area has been doing. For me, I learn a lot, and I guess and I hope many people also learn from that experience.
I really enjoyed being a part of the parade. It felt like a really, really special day, and I loved the engagement from everybody. I loved learning all about the different spots throughout the area that I live in that women have done so many amazing things in. So it was great to be a part of such a special day.
Actually, everyone is eager to express themselves and also fight for women's rights. We need this between women, and also men are helping out. Of course, we need men also in this movement.
This is not just about women, and I think that is an aspect that, if the project were to go forward, needs to grow further. What happens afterwards? What has it done to the lives of these people, and how can they help contribute taking it further?
These things don't stop because the parade has stopped or because the project has finished. These relationships are lasting, are continuing to have a legacy. There are 4 women from the project who are now in the Friends group for Stratford Park, which is something Newham Council wanted for a very long time.
It's still early days, but we met and we motivated to do something about our local park, to reclaim it, to make it a place where people want to come and everyone is safe.
We'd realised that over the years it kind of been starting to become known for the wrong things. We worked to come up with ideas and like brainstorm how we could bring it back to its roots of being a local monument for us.
In this bowling club, we organized the first poetry house in Newham. So that one made me feel very attached to this park and how we can improve the park, make more families come together.
These kind of links, these relationships, these networks, this generosity of support in a way becomes really key in creating happiness in a neighbourhood.
Women helping women, and it's all locally based, and those are things that are very important to me. So I think if this was to develop into something bigger, I would be very interested in still remaining a part of it.
I would love to be involved in the future of this project if it were to continue. I think it's really important to empower women throughout lots of different elements of their lives, and I would love to be able to teach women and really empower them to do some of the things themselves to improve their own homes and make them feel better about themselves.
I think there is definitely a scope for the legacy of this project. It could potentially be wider than work. I think that discussion is very valid at the moment.
I will definitely write about these things when I go to university and things like that. I've actually put them into my personal statement. Because we've gone through the process, the passion that we speak about it with changes like the articles and the things that we write. I think the process means that we're so much more engaged with our writing, and I think that's really important for journalism.
Artistically, also what has been really interesting for us as a creative team is the notion of occasions or events, be it in the parade, be it in the sessions we held before, and how does one creatively design events which are not necessarily about commercial consumption or spectacle, but it is really about social change. So that kind of creative aesthetic, if you like, of an event or an occasion is something we will also artistically be pushing forward.
I believe these projects are very important. We need to build bridges, we need to meet together, we need to get to know each other and see how different we might be, but also how similar we are and how we can support each other.
To really wrap up, what's been really, really interesting is that there wasn't a very singular idea of what work is to women. What was very interesting, and we're going to continue, was the value of care that kind of came across really distinctly in terms of what women were really interested in. Because it's not measurable, you can't put it into a formula, those are things that we no longer credit as much, and they are such an important part of our society and what builds our society.